Today we are headed to the thrift store because we are combining my favorite things, thrifting and Kirkland's dupes. I'm gonna share a ton of tips and techniques so that you can get that high-end look on a super small budget, so stay tuned. This is Whiskey and Whit. My name's Whitney, and on this channel, I love to share DIYs and budget home decor. I've got tips, tricks, and tutorials and videos every week. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please hit subscribe down below so you don't miss a future video. I'm also super excited because today's video is a collab with my friend Courtney over at Creative on the Cheap. We are both challenging ourselves to head to the thrift store, find some awesome items, and dupe higher end looks for much less. So once you're done here, head over to her video. So let's head to the thrift store. I like to get a pile together of stuff to donate and drop it off before I even head into the store. I kind of like to do a one in, one out, or multiples out with one in, just because if not, you will have so much clutter. Get a car full, load it up, donate, and then head in to go shopping. Before we hop into, I ended up going to 2 different thrift stores, but I was able to find everything I was looking for these projects. So my first piece of inspiration is this ivory textured table lamp from Kirklands, and they were selling it for $90. So I headed to the lamp section first to see if I could find something with a base that was chunky and wide, similar to the inspo. I was able to find this lamp. It didn't have a lampshade, but it was only $3.99. So I grabbed it and brought it home, and the first thing I did was clean it. With anything secondhand, garage sales, thrift stores, flea markets, all the things, you're going to want to make sure that you get your stuff clean before you start working with it. And then I took it outside and got ready to prime it. I just took a Target plastic bag and taped it over the top just to cover any of that exposed electrical. I also made sure to cover the bottom plug-in with painter's tape so there was no chance I was going to get paint on anything electrical. Then I took this flat white primer that I had on hand, but you could use even a beige color. You just want to make sure that it goes with what you are planning to do. And the reason I needed this was because those flowers were pretty bright. Then to give it the texture, we're going to do a hack with some spray paint. This Rust-Oleum stone spray paint is awesome. I got it at Menards for under $10, and there are a lot of different colors. I just ended up going with the kind of white taupey color. And all you do once your piece is primed is just spray it over the top. It has little pieces of like sand and grit in it to give it that texture. And I just carefully went over and made sure everything was covered. You just spray it like traditional spray paint. Then because my lamp did not have a lampshade, I headed to Target. This is my favorite place to get lampshades. I think for the quality that you get and the price, lampshades are not relatively cheap things, but this one was $20. It is a large drum lampshade, and it fit perfectly with the size of my base. Overall, this is about a third of the cost of that $90 lamp from Kirkland's. The other awesome thing is if you already have a lampshade at home or a lamp you're already using, you could use the same technique to just update it, and that'll save you even more. For this next one, I was inspired by the unfinished wood border of this frame, so I headed to the frame section and I made sure to grab 2 real wood frames. That is the kicker here. It's got to be real wood for this technique to work. So these, because I knew I was just going to put them on a shelf, I wasn't worried that it didn't have a kickstand on the back, and I just took a flathead screwdriver to pop up any of the items, and I removed everything inside of both my frames, popped out my glass, and made sure to give that a good clean with some Windex. Now to get that unfinished wood / bleached look, I'm using Easy Off Oven Cleaner. Now I saw this technique on Instagram from an account called Vintage Porch that I absolutely love, and she did this on a big mirror and some other types of furniture, and it looked amazing. So all you do is take that oven cleaner, make sure you're outside, you've got gloves on, and you're wearing a mask just because it's a little fumy. I took it outside on a drop cloth, sprayed it, let it sit for 20 minutes, and then I went through with a little scrubber and scrubbed it. After I got done scrubbing, I brought it inside and I used a damp paper towel to get off all of the gunk because you're essentially scraping off the finish of the wood. Then I made sure to let it completely dry so I could see what I was working with. So here they are after one coat, and as you can see, it's starting to take it off. This looks super like what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna spray some of these other areas, do a second coat to get some stuff off the sides, but it's working. I ended up doing 3 rounds in all to get it all to come off, but it was a really simple process. Another thing you can do is use a pot cleaner to scrub it off, and that will help get a lot more layers off. These turned out so pretty. They look just like I wanted them. Then I took these files that I created, so these are free printables over on my blog, and I put them into the frames, and I love these. They don't look anything like the frames that I got at Goodwill. I love the raw wood, especially because I don't have a ton of elements like this, so it's a nice bit of contrast. I also like that you can see, depending on the type of wood and finish, you can get a couple different looks. One is going to live in my bathroom on this shelf, and then I also put one on my 3 floating shelves in my living room. I'm so happy with how these turned out. One frame was $1.99, one frame was $2.99, so $2 and $3, $5 for the frame plus the easy off, and it was a pretty easy process. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Something that you see hugely popular in modern farmhouse decor are these black candlesticks, but they can be pricey, especially some of these sets on Kirklands, just for one, 20 bucks, and that's not even the biggest one. So we are going to head to the candle section. So they've got a ton of different containers here, a ton of different options. I'm looking for overall shapes that I like because don't worry, we can change the color. And I'm also looking for different sizes. I think a lot of people get worried when they see items like this because they don't think they'll look like metal. Well, make sure to grab them because I'm going to show you how you can take these glass ones as well and make them look like they are a matching set with the metal ones. So I ended up grabbing a pretty decent array, and I originally wanted to break that glass piece off of the middle one, but I just decided to leave it as is. So I ended up working with a different one that I grabbed, which is this green one. So if you are able to come across some that are just that metal texture and are exactly what you want, like here, I didn't need to add any texture because it was already what I was looking for. You can just give it a couple light coats of black matte spray paint, and that is going to do exactly what you need. Even those ones that look black, I took some spray paint to the top of it just so that everything was the same color and it looked like a set even though they are mismatched. So what about those super smooth ones that I said we could make look similar? One is glass and one is a metal, but it's smooth metal so it doesn't look like what I want. Well, we're going to take that stone spray paint from before and give it a quick coat of that texture. Once that dries, that is going to be an awesome base for your spray paint. So then you just use the same one that we're using before, that black matte spray paint. And with that texture, it looks like these items are metal, and it is awesome. They are going to match the other set so well. I ended up doing 2 coats to make sure everything matched. And if you look up close, you've got that kind of crackly, uneven texture that you had naturally from those other pieces. Also make sure to flip them over and get the bottom so that everything is covered so you don't have any peek through white from that original coat. I didn't spend more than $2.99 on any of these. Each of these were 99 cents, so this set is $2 compared to the $20 for one of them that Kirkland's wanted. I think the texture is awesome, and if your candles won't fit, just take a little bit of paper. This is just parchment paper I had laying around. Roll it up and stick your candle in, and it will help it stay straight up. I love how this all looks like it's kind of a vintage set because they don't match perfectly, but they're all the same color. They've all got nice texture, and I just added some of these DIY little mercury glass votives. This would make a beautiful tablescape, and I'm so happy with how these turned out. Now, high-end vases are something that just boggle my mind. Like this one, $2.79 for a vase. Like that's just my bargain brain thinking, like, what? So heading to the vase section first to look at the ceramics, there are a lot of beautiful shapes. Now don't worry about the colors or the patterns on there. You just want something that fits the size of the space that you want to have a vase in. I also like to look in the glassware section because there are items you can use, and you can also look in the kitchenware section because crocks like these, if you pop the lid off, you could use those as a vase as well. Same idea. You just got to get a little creative when you're in the thrift store. Also with ceramics, it's buyer beware. Make sure you check everything out good. I loved the shape of this one, but there was a huge crack, so it had to go back on the shelf. This one I ended up loving the shape of, but it is smooth and really shiny. So I'm going to show you how I made that over. And for $7, and then also this glass one for $3 at this store, the green stickers were half off that day. So this one ended up being $3.50, and this one ended up being $1.50. So I'm using a little bit different of a texture for this one. This is Rust-Oleum's multicolor texture. It's right around $7 at the hardware store, so about $3 less. I personally like the stone better that I used before, but this one works for under textures. If you're going to have a texture on the outside that you're actually going to see, I'd go with the stone. Here I'm just going to give each of them a full coating of the multicolor texture. As you see here, this is a lot more runny than that other stone consistency, so you want to be careful for drips. I wasn't super careful with the glass one and I ended up having to pivot, so we'll talk about that in a second. But the blue vase took it really well, and once it dried, it looked like this. So then I actually liked the green color of the inspo vase, so I grabbed this oregano when I was also at the hardware store, and I ended up giving my vase 2 coats. Now the key with spray paint is multiple light coats instead of one heavy coat, because you might want to cover it up, but if you just do one heavy coat, you're going to get the drips, so light coats are the way to go. But once you let it dry, you've got a beautiful vase in whatever color works. I just added some eucalyptus from the Target dollar spot, but Walmart, Michaels, a lot of places has beautiful eucalyptus. This looks perfect on my living room folding shelves next to my new frame. Now I ended up pivoting with this vase because it ended up getting way too drippy. I tried to cover it and it just didn't look good. So I decided to try a baking soda painting technique that has been all over the internet and I haven't tried yet. So I just took some truffle chalk paint as well as some baking soda, and I added a little bit at a time till I got a consistency that I wanted. You want it to be like a mousse consistency. You want it to be thicker and have there be bubbles in it. But once I had that consistency, I painted it all over my vase and it ended up giving me more of what I was looking for. When I got everything on there in the truffle color, I also dabbed my paintbrush to give it a little bit more texture. I probably should have added to this particular one a little bit more baking soda. I just wanted it to look ceramic versus glass, and I think I accomplished that. Then when everything was dry, I made sure to go outside and take this clear spray paint. You can also use a polyacrylic just to seal it. I gave it a quick coat, let it dry overnight, added some eucalyptus, and you definitely, by looking at it, would not think it was a super cheap glass container because it's got that dimension and the different colors. I also like the dark brown. I don't have a lot of items like this, and it works well with my wood tones in my house as well. I think it's just comical to compare it to the Kirklands ones because you guys know I will never spend that on it. But I think this look is very similar, and I appreciate the inspiration of that high-end piece because it helped me make these. We don't have a lot of overhead lighting in our house, so I decided to do another lamp dupe. This one, again, $359 for a concrete lamp. So we're going to dupe the concrete look for cheaper. So again, in the lamp section, I was looking for something a little more grand, a little larger, and I came across this one. I liked that it was bigger, but it was also skinnier and it wasn't going to take up a lot of space on my table. I got it home and I removed the lampshade because it was definitely wonky and I was not going to keep it. It also was dirty. So it's nice to just invest a little bit more in a new lampshade and it will make your piece look so much better. So once I removed that lampshade, I gave it a quick clean and then it was time to paint it. I started with a base coat of this dark gray acrylic paint. This is just Craft Smart paint that I got from Michaels. You can use any acrylic paint. Once my base coat was on, it was time to make my faux concrete mixture. So it was similar to the vase we just did. I put more of that dark gray paint in a cup and then I gradually added some baking soda until it got to the consistency that I wanted. So dump in a little, stir it up, and you're looking for it to kind of mimic the look of wet cement. Then you're going to paint it on your entire thing. This is really easy to do. You just paint it on. Once it gets a little tacky, then you can go back in and kind of make that kind of crusty type look here where you see a little bit more of your brush strokes and it gives it a little bit more of kind of that organic look. I originally was going to try a plaster of Paris technique I saw on Pinterest where you mix that all together, but I ran out of time to get to the store and I had the baking soda on hand. This is so much cheaper and easier to me. Once it is done, it looks so cool even when it's wet, but I let this dry for a couple hours just to make sure it was completely dry, but I thought it looked so much like I had put some concrete on there. Made me super proud of the process. Then I also went out with that matte clear to spray over the top. You want to make sure you're not sealing with a gloss sealant because you're going to get rid of that look. It's going to make it nice and shiny. Now, if you want it shiny, go for the gloss, but I wanted that matte look. Then I grabbed another new lampshade from Target. This one was also 20 bucks. I love the texture. I wanted to share these Amazon light bulbs that I found for them. They are rechargeable LED bulbs. I use them in my normal lamps to charge. You have to put it in a socket, but then you can put it into a lamp and not have to worry about plugging it in, especially if you're worried about the electrical from the lamp or the plug doesn't work, etc. You can essentially get rid of the need to plug it in and just put that in once it's charged. So you can follow the instructions on the box. I'll link them down below, but I do really like them. Now, compared to the $359, this lamp was $599 plus the new lampshade. We're looking at about $26 for this lamp, a fraction of that total cost from Kirkland's. Every time I'm in a Kirkland store, I love to look at their artwork. I think it's so pretty, especially the paintings, but it's always way out of my budget. So I started in the large framed artwork section, and I ended up finding 2 frames that I liked. This one, the birds aren't really my style, but I liked the outside of the frame, and for $5, I figured I could make it work. I also grabbed this skinnier white frame, and I loved the frame on this, and this one ended up being $6.99. Upon further inspection when I got them home, both of them were professionally framed, meaning that the back doesn't have the little prongs that you can easily swap stuff out. So the overall goal here is to get the artwork and the mat out of the frame so you can replace it. So each frame's going to be different. For this one, I just used my flathead screwdriver and made an indent to kind of break apart all of that tape on the back to start seeing what I was working with. I figured out that there were some staples in there, so I used my flathead screwdriver to kind of pop those up, and I kind of pulled stuff out as I went. If I wanted to salvage something, I tried extra hard, but I wasn't heartbroken if I had an issue. This foam I knew I wasn't going to use, so I was able to break through that, but I was able to salvage the mat and the glass, which was awesome. Then I worked really carefully to get everything out, including the glass, so that I could get everything clean, get the stickiness off, and all of that. I ended up having to do Goo Gun on the outside of the glass just because that tape had been on there for a while, but once I did that and added some Windex, this thing was shining like new. For the new art on the inside of my frames, I decided to head to Etsy to see if I could find something that I liked. I found 2 beautiful images, and you guys know that I love making my printables, but I wanted to support another creator because this is a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. So I measured my frames, and I ended up ordering poster sizes that I needed from Walgreens. They're always running a sale. I got these half off for $10 pretty much each approximately, and this one I just ordered something a little bit bigger than the frame so I could mat it myself. The green in the mat fits so well with the trees, so I decided to line it up, trim my poster down, and then I hooked it to the back with just some packing tape so it wouldn't move on me. Super easy peasy to remat something yourself. Now, if you're a professional framer, you're probably like cringing at this process, but it worked for me. It was quick and easy and affordable. Then all you have to do is pop it back in, and to give the back some rigidity, I just used some Dollar Tree foam board, popped it in on the back, and then I pushed back down all of those little staples I pushed up in the beginning to get the original piece out. It is as simple as switching pictures in your own frames at home. It's just on a larger scale. You could also do this process with photos, which would be awesome. And these professionally framed pieces of art usually have better quality frames than you're going to find for the same price at the store right now. So it is a win-win across the board for me. I don't think there's a direct comparison between the large canvases that inspired me at Kirkland's, but these both were easily under $20 for a piece of art like this to hang in your house is a steal. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to let me know down in the comments your favorite project. I obviously have my favorites in videos, but I also want to know what you guys like because that's the whole reason I make my content is for you. Now, up next for you is Courtney's video, so be sure to click that link down in the description. She will have a ton more tips, tricks, projects, all the fun stuff for you over on her channel, Creative on the Cheap. Also, while you're down there, be sure to hit subscribe if this is your first time here so you don't miss a future Whiskey and Whip video, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!